The demon prince grows nervous and grips his sword tightly, but Rio only smirks, unsheathes his ice blade, and says that they should just get this over with. Earlier, Natalie goes rushing into Ryo's room searching for him, but his roommates inform her that he isn't there. Since he has gone to the Northern Library, she thanks them and rushes out, but unfortunately, she doesn't know where that is, so she once again asks them for help. After finally getting directions, Natalie finds Ryo in the street. Seeing how exhausted she looks, he immediately asks what's wrong. She explains that Abel and his party have gone missing inside the dungeon. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Ryo creates an ice cart and tells her they can discuss the details on the way. As they travel, she tells him everything. Curious, he asks why she came to him specifically. Natalie explains that Abel once told her that if she ever needed help and he wasn't around, she should go to Ryo because he would never refuse. Ryo feels proud that his friend thinks so highly of him, and he decides to enter the dungeon. However, the guards block his way. Unwilling to waste time, he creates 2 ice walls and forces his way inside. Natalie had told him the signal came from the 40th floor, so he knows he can't afford to go down floor by floor. Using his ice magic, he opens a hole in the ground that takes him straight to the lower levels. At last, he reaches the 40th floor, where Abel's party is desperately in need of help. Ryo teases the demon prince, asking why he doesn't seem eager to fight. He raises his sword, almost as if daring the prince to attack. The demon finally charges, but to Ryo he's far too slow. With a single sidestep, Ryo slashes his neck, cleanly cutting his head. Ryo thinks to himself that the demon is painfully slow compared to Leonor, while Abel stares in disbelief, wondering what kind of technique that was. But to their shock, the demon calmly reattaches his severed head. Ryo thinks the demon prince is only compensating for its lost strength, but even so, it feels far too weak for someone of its rank. He briefly wonders if the creature can even understand him, though there's no time for conversation. Instead, he decides to test its regenerative powers. Ryo summons 256 water jets that strike the demon prince from every direction, slicing it into thousands of pieces. The force even breaks its magic stone, yet before it can shatter, the demon prince freezes it, leaving everyone stunned. Abel, relieved, thanks Ryo for saving their lives. Ryo casually replies that he'll accept the apology in the form of free dinners, and Abel gladly promises to treat him for the entire week. Rihia rushes forward and hugs Abel, who feels guilty for making her worry. Arthur then introduces himself as an advisor at the Bureau of Royal Magicians and personally thanks Ryo for his help. Ryo brushes it off, saying it's nothing, but he can't help noticing the fallen mages. Arthur acknowledges it, explaining that some were not fortunate enough to survive. He adds that once their magicians recover enough mana, they will begin gathering the remains. Abel suggests they also collect the devil's magic stones, so they can sell them and distribute the money to the families of the fallen. Ryo agrees, but wonders what Abel means by devil. Abel explains that such creatures supposedly haven't appeared in the central provinces for hundreds of years. This makes Ryo recall how Leonor introduced herself as an Akuma, and he begins to wonder if there's a difference between the two. Noticing him lost in thought, the others ask if something is wrong. Ryo then mentions that when he descended from the 39th to the 40th floor, he sensed a special field, though it seems to have vanished now. Abel suggests that the field may have disappeared because they defeated the demon prince. Ryo agrees, noting that in a typical dungeon, defeating the boss often triggers a safe exit. Abel doesn't quite understand what he means, but Ryo goes on to explain that when he first arrived, he sensed something strange near the stairs. He thinks they should investigate it on their way back. Perhaps it's connected to what happened here. They notice that the devil's magic stones are black. Arthur recalls that back when he was an adventurer, he once encountered a devil in the western provinces, though he was unable to defeat it. He adds that this is actually his first time seeing a devil's magic stone. Rihia agrees, noting that there are no records of such stones in the temples of the central provinces either. Arthur goes on to explain that devils appear suddenly and at random, which has led many to believe they possess space-time magic, a revelation that greatly surprises Ryo. Meanwhile, another party of heroes gathers around a man-made altar when Leonor suddenly appears, having sensed something unusual. The party leader bravely steps forward, declaring that she is the demon lord he will defeat. Leonor is taken aback, surprised to hear herself called a demon lord. Another member of the party explains that the altar was built through great sacrifices, and it is why widely believed that alighting it would summon the demon lord. Leonore wonders who these people are and why they would want to summon such a being. The boy introduces himself as a hero named Roman, declaring that he will kill the demon lord. Hearing that he is a hero, Leonore's eyes light up with excitement. She thinks that since he bears the title of hero, he must also be strong, and that facing him will bring her great entertainment. Leonore prepares to fight Roman, but he proves far too weak, and she defeats him with ease. She then tells his companions that they are free to attack her if they wish, but warns that if they do, she will have no choice but to defend herself. In her mind, she also notes that they should be more worried about their fallen hero. Just then, she notices a black jewel, and she thinks although the fight was very boring, collecting it would justify her effort. Roman once again calls her a demon lord, which irritates Leonore. She tells them that if they all work together, they might actually be able to defeat the current demon lord. Leaving the party stunned, she adds that there are even humans as strong as she is. Leonore recalls her fight with Ryo, saying it was truly enjoyable. The group is shocked to realize she isn't a demon lord after all. Finally, she introduces herself as Leonore and tells Roman to become the strongest human he can, so that one day they can have a proper battle. However, Roman still refuses to believe that there could be a human stronger than him. Before leaving, Leonore smirks and tells him that Ryo is about 10,000 times stronger than he is. Meanwhile, Ryo and the others come across another group of adventurers from Lune. Arthur suspects that Clive's men probably hired them, hoping to secure the route to the 11th floor. Abel then realizes that it wasn't only their parties from the 10th and 11th floors who were teleported to the 40th floor. Ryo notices a black orb and realizes it must be the anomaly he picked up earlier. Arthur admits he has never seen anything like it before. He points out that it was emitting mana just moments ago, but now the energy has vanished. Fortunately, he has a barrier bag that can prevent mana from leaking in or out. Ryo asks if he intends to take it back, and Arthur confirms, explaining that it's their only piece of evidence. On their way back, Abel once again thanks Ryo for saving them. Ryo reminds him of his promise to feed him for the whole week, but adds that if Abel truly wants to show his appreciation, he'd like to know more about the curry shop he mentioned. Abel promises to treat him to some delicious curry, and Ryo warns that if he forgets his promise, he'll cut him into even smaller pieces than the demon prince, something Abel can't help but laugh at. They finally make it outside, where Hugh is relieved to see them safe. Natalie greets the group, and Abel thanks her, saying it was only because she called Ryo that they were able to return alive. Hugh is glad to see Abel but wishes he would stick to safer jobs on the surface. However, he is clearly displeased that Ryo ignored the guards' warnings. Ryo offers an apology, but Arthur steps in, pointing out that they only survived thanks to Ryo. Hugh is shocked to hear this, and Arthur adds that they can discuss the matter further later in the tent. Before leaving with him, Hugh tells Ryo that they aren't finished discussing the subject. However, he thinks he deserves appreciation for the help, which relieves Ryo. Arthur tells Hugh that they encountered 50 devils and even a demon prince, which leaves Hugh stunned. He is amazed that they managed to return alive, though Hugh admits he shouldn't be too surprised after all. It was Abel's party. Arthur explains that although Abel fought impressively, the demon prince nearly killed him, shocking Hugh. He then asks if it was Ryo who defeated the demon, and Arthur confirms it. Curious, Arthur asks Hugh who is that young boy, but Hugh admits he doesn't know either. All he knows is that Ryo once helped Abel return safely from his journey to the Malefic Mountains. Arthur remarks that it's wonderful Abel has such a powerful ally, someone capable of killing a demon prince in a flash. Hugh, however, doesn't quite grasp what he means by in a flash, so Arthur clarifies that both the demon prince and the devils were killed out within seconds. Arthur believes that nothing is more important than ensuring their country stays on the good side of this unprecedented magician. If the aristocrats were to provoke him, it could cause serious problems. Because of this, Arthur decides not to leave any official record of Ryo's actions. Hugh agrees and chooses to leave Ryo's name out of his own reports as well, reasoning that their town cannot afford to make an enemy of someone so powerful. The next morning, Ryo goes for a run with his friends, but they struggle to keep up with his pace. He encourages them, saying that the important thing is to keep moving forward, even if they have to slow down. Later, while walking through town, Ryo feels a bit restless, thinking it might be because yesterday's battle ended so abruptly. Suddenly, he catches a scent in the air coming from a nearby restaurant and quickly quickly rushes toward it. When Ryo opens the door, he finds Sira already there, also drawn by the delicious curry. She tells him it's the best in town and even invites him to sit beside her. The bartender asks what level of spice they'd like, and both order medium hot. Ryo then notices that Sira has already finished a plate of curry. She quickly explains that elves have a high metabolism and insists she isn't trying to compete with him. Ryo simply replies that he never said anything like that. Sira asks Ryo where he lives, and he tells her he stays at the guild dorms. She teases him, asking if that's where all the rookies live, but then guesses that since he's visited the North Side Library, he must be at least D rank. Ryo confirms that he was promoted to D rank upon registration, which impresses her as she already considers him quite strong. However, Ryo says it's the first time anyone has ever told him that. Sira thinks for a moment, then suggests that maybe others simply don't know what to look for. After finishing their meal, Ryo asks Sira why he hasn't seen her at the guild, even though she's an adventurer. She explains that until recently she was based in the royal capital, and because she has a long-term contract, she doesn't visit the guild often. Sira reveals that she's a swordsmanship instructor for Margrave Lune's Order of Knights, which makes Ryo wonder if she also teaches swordsmanship. She playfully tells him that she's much stronger than she looks, leaning in a bit too close and leaving him flustered. Curious, she asks if he has any plans, since she would like to have a mock battle with him. Ryo, though a bit nervous, agrees to join her. Before their match begins, Sira remarks that ever since he walked into the restaurant, she could sense his frustration, like he was hungry for a real battle. Surprised, Ryo asks how she knew he could use a sword. Sira smiles and explains that she is also a wielder of both magic and blade. With that, the two formally begin their practice match. Sira charges at him, but Ryo manages to dodge her strikes, which leaves her impressed. Deciding to stop holding back, she unleashes her full power. Ryo quickly realizes she's become much faster, and during their close combat his sword snaps, forcing him to surrender. To his surprise, Sira is delighted. This is the first time anyone has ever managed to withstand her wind robe technique. Only then, Ryo realized she had been using wind magic to enhance her speed. Sira asks who taught him to fight like that, and Ryo replies that it was his mentor, the same one who gave him his robe. Putting the pieces together, she realizes it was the Fairy King. Amazed, she remarks that he's truly fortunate, since the Fairy King is practically a legend. Just then, Relita arrives to remind Sira of her appointment with Master Alfonso. Before leaving, Sira tells Relita that Ryo is important to her and asks her to escort him home, leaving Relita visibly surprised. As they walk outside, Relita is still surprised that this guy is so important to Sira. Just